What's up, everyone? It's Bones here. I'd like to begin this video by giving a huge shout out to TCG Player for the opportunity to be a part of their affiliate program. If you want to help a content creator out, all you have to do is click on the TCG Player link down below, and it won't cost you anything either. Rising from the Ashened, we have another new wave of Ashened cards coming in Legacy of Destruction, and this combo features just Awakening of Vados, and I think that the upgrades that we got are actually pretty decent. Not as terrible as I thought I was going to see when people were mentioning how bad these cards were, but I think that there's really cool things that this deck can do in my opinion, as we're going to get ourselves the Vados. Do keep in mind that whenever you start your combo with Awakening, you do want to put Obsidian on your opponent's board, just because you want to be able to add the Vados to your hand, especially if you don't already have it. But we're now going to use the effect of Vados in order to pop the field spell. We'll then be able to get ourselves our first new card, Ashened to Endlessness. It's a continuous trap that reads, during the main phase, you can fusion summon one pyro monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as material, including Vados. And if you do, it gains 500 attack for each material used. You can banish this card and one dark pyro monster from your graveyard. All monsters your opponent currently controls becomes pyro until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Ashened to the Endlessness once per turn. And I think this is a really nice card just because it gets you into your fusions, but it also has that cool graveyard effect in order to make your opponent's monsters pyro, which can come up in this deck. But we're going to continue here by using the Obsidian, as this will be able to get ourselves into the King. Use the effect of King, and because our opponent controls a monster with 2815, I think the stats you need are, or it has to be 2800 or more attack. But we're going to special summon out the Priestess now. Use the effect of Priestess, which can search ourselves an Ashened card from our deck to our hand, and we're going to get our next new card, the Extinguishing of the Ashened, and this card reads, send one dark pyro monster from your deck to the graveyard, then you can add one level 5 or higher pyro monster from your graveyard to your hand. Now, I think the really important thing about this effect is the fact that you can search yourself Vados this way, just because it's another way to get it to hand, and that was one thing that was definitely lacking before we got this support. But for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except pyro monsters, so another locked 4 pyro monsters, but I don't think it's even that bad just because of the playstyle of the deck. It's not like you're going out of your way to limit what you can do, when what you're going to do is going to consist mostly of pyro monsters. But you can banish this card from your graveyard, fusion summon one pyro fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field as material. You can only use each effect of Extinguishing once per turn. How that can be really good, being able to banish itself, get rid of some empty bodies that you have left over in order to get into your fusions, as they don't really do anything on the field once you use the effect of like King and the Priestess and stuff. But we're going to continue here by activating the Extinguishing, and this will be able to send ourselves the Vados. We'll add ourselves the Vados back, as we'll then be able to use the effect in the graveyard in order to fusion summon into our next new card, Embers of the Ashened. And this card reads that it takes 2 pyro monsters, so not even 2 Ashen monsters, which is really nice. And if this card is fusion summoned, you can target one field spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and that's any field spell. That makes this a really cool, if you're playing super poly, maybe you put this into your extra deck for certain pyro decks that have field spells that you can recur if you're playing like the mirror, so Snake Eyes basically. But we're going to continue here by using the effect of Embers in order to get ourselves back the Obsidian, and from here we can activate the Obsidian, as we'll then be able to go on to our opponent's turn. And now I just want to show what we can do here, as we're going to use the effect of Vados at the point that our opponent does anything you want to respond to, as we're going to pop the field spell, give them the other copy of Vados. From here we'll set our return, I think it's called, or no, the Eternity, as from here we'll then use the effect of Obsidian. Obsidian will get us into the Priestess. I think that the Priestess is fine here, just because it gets you into follow-up, especially if you need it. But we'll then be able to add ourselves an Extinguishing, which is access to another Vados. From here we'll then be able to activate the Endless, and this is important because it's now going to be able to provide you a way to remove your opponent's cards from board, as we're going to go into our new Vados. So you already know that the Vados is a board wipe once it leaves the field, and it destroys all monsters on the field. But the cool thing about the Vados fusion is that it reads, it takes one Vados, the Eruption, Dragon of Extinction, plus 2+ level 9 or lower pyro monsters. Cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, your opponent cannot target it with monster effects. If this card is fusion summoned, you can destroy all spell and traps your opponent controls. So with the Vados in the graveyard, this becomes a full-on nuke. When your opponent activates a card or effect on the field, quick effect, you can send one face-up Ashen card you control to the graveyard, destroy that card. You can only use this effect of Vados, the Dragon of Endless Darkness, once per turn. And I think that this is really cool as a secondary effect too, just because you have the ability ability to send your Endlessness, and then the Endlessness can banish itself along with one of your Pyro monsters during your own turn to make your opponent's stuff Pyro, and that can be really important just for little effects like the Embers. You also have things like Super Poly that can become relevant as well. Using the effect of Vados, if you would like to, you'll notice how that will get rid of the Embers as well because it's a full-on monster wipe, but we do get to keep the Vados because of the protection, which is really nice, so I'll get you on to the next combo. Now, for the second combo, we have Vados along with the field spell, and this is going to be a relatively short video just because a lot of the combos really do depend on seeing Vados and the field spell, and a lot of the cards are meant to get you into that, but we're going to continue here by using the effect of Vados. We'll be able to pop Obsidian as we're going to get ourselves the Endless. From here, we'll use the effect of Obsidian. Obsidian will then get ourselves Hero as we'll use the effect of King. I'm sorry, not Hero, but we'll then be able to special summon out Priestess. Priestess will get ourselves the Extinguishing as we'll then use the effect of Extinguishing, which will get ourselves access to another Vados. From here, we can then use the Fusion effect so that we can get back our Obsidian, giving us access to the Vados along with the Obsidian in our hand. And now we can just activate the Obsidian, go on to our opponent's turn. Now this next combo features the two new level 4s that we got in this set, and unfortunately they aren't too great, but they can serve as extenders. That said, Shaman of the Ashen City reads, if Obsidian is in the field zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Shaman once per turn this way. You can target 3 of your Pyro monsters that are banished and or in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and if you shuffled an Ashen monster, you can add 1 Obsidian the Ashened City from your deck to your hand. So that's really nice as it's just another way to get into the field spell, recurse stuff from the banished and graveyard, but again, not something that's going to be able to start your plays, and you can only use this effect of Shaman once per turn. Spearhead, which is another level 4, and it also reads, if Obsidian is in the field zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Spearhead once per turn. This way, if your opponent controls a monster with 2800 or more attack, you contribute this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. You can only use this effect of Spearhead once per turn, so essentially a board breaker or a mini board breaker, but we're going to continue here by activating the Obsidian, and the main point of this combo is because I want to show the alternative way that you can get into your combo, and also really showing the strengths of being able to special summon out these level 4s off of Obsidian and not having to commit to your normal summon. But we're going to go into Banshee, get ourselves the Priestess, and again, because we have the Obsidian, we don't even have to normal summon this, so we'll special summon it, use its effect in order to get ourselves a search for the Extinguishing, as we'll then be able to activate the Extinguishing. We'll then be able to get ourselves access into the Vados. We'll then be able to use the effect of Vados, which will then pop the Obsidian, give our opponent the Vados, as we'll then be able to get the Endless, and then use the Obsidian in order to get ourselves the King. We'll then be able to use the effect of King, which will then be able to get ourselves the Hero, and from here we'll then be able to use the effect of Extinguishing, fusion away into our Embers, use the effect of Embers so that we can get Obsidian. From here we'll then be able to activate the Obsidian, and now at this point I'm going to show what happens here since you are left with kind of an awkward board where you do have multiple points of interaction still. I'm just going to activate this here in the draw phase, but you can activate it at any point that you want. But at this point here, what I want to show is that during your opponent's main phase, you have the ability to use the Hero in order to get rid of one of your opponent's Pyro monsters, and then you also have the Fusion spell that you can use, or the Fusion trap that you can use after using Hero. It really depends on what your opponent does, and you want to be careful with the order that you activate these cards, especially if you know that you're playing against a deck that can really continue to pump out cards after getting interrupted. So we're going to continue here by responding to whatever you want to by your opponent, and then we're going to Fusion summon away here as we'll go into the Vados. The Banshee just becomes otter pretty much that can be destroyed, and you don't really care about it since it's the Banshee. It already served its purpose, but now we'll be able to continue on from here by board wiping our opponent and then giving our opponent the opportunity to either respond or pass. So with all of the combos out of the way, we can get onto the deck profile, and I first want to go over the options like the U-Bell Fusion. This is something that you can play especially after the new card comes out, the Fusion Spirit of U-Bell I think it's called. Once that deck gains more popularity, this will become a popular Super Poly target that you can play. Then there's Ancient Fairy along with the Revolution Synchron that you can play as well. I just didn't like the idea of shoving unnecessary cards, in my opinion, into the deck, and if it's a one-of, then it's not something that you you're really seeing. I just felt like playing the set rotation along with the field spells was better for what I wanted my version of the deck to do. The Nemesis stuff is cool just because if you want to play a shifter version, you can technically do something like that where you really aren't banishing a lot with your own combo, but just being able to shifter and end on a board that even if it's not the best of what this deck can do, just being able to get access into this stuff is really cool. And you also have Bonfire in order to search your flags, so just thought that it was worth mentioning, even if you don't want to play it. I've also seen people mess around with the volcanic stuff, and the only thing that I didn't like about this was you didn't really get any to play going second cards unless you fully on commit to a 60 card build, and I can maybe do something like that in a future video down the line, but in today's video I really wanted to focus on these new cards and show what the deck is capable of now since we got upgrades to the deck. And as for the extra deck, you'll see that we just have our super poly targets. Being able to super poly into this during our opponent's turn is kind of cool too. I guess I should also go over potential field spells like Necro Valley that can be returned via Ember, though I really wouldn't suggest it just because you do use your own graveyard to return stuff. I even think it hurts you more than Shifter, since technically Shifter is just done after a turn and it lets you continue to play after that, while Necro Valley stays on the field. So I just think that it's important to consider which field spells you want to play. I don't think that there are many Floodgate field spells that are worth running right now, except Summon Breaker, which is kind of like another summon limit, but again, you are relying on seeing it off of one set rotation. Though I guess technically you can play other things in order to send it to the graveyard, or even add it to your hand and stuff like that, but it's just doing things to deter what the pure strategy wants to do, and that's why I'm not really going too much into it since set rotation is just at one. That said, I did choose Chicken Game because it is kind of like an upstart goblin, something that feels really free to get off of the set rotation. We also got another new card, Multi-Universe, and this is a TCG exclusive. Activate only if you do not control a face-up card in your field zone, and that's pretty easy to do, as if you don't have a field zone, or if you don't have a field spell, you can just activate it, but if you destroyed your field spell already with the Vados, it kind of becomes just an extender, but you can target one field spell that is banished or in either graveyard, destroy this card, and if you do, place the targeted card face up in the field zone, so being able to get back your Obsidians with this is pretty strong. You can only use this effect of Multi-Universe once per turn. If a card in the field zone would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, and that is also pretty nice, as you just get protection just in case you do need it, if you want your opponent's monsters to stay pyro, for example, and things like that. With all of that out of the way, I'm just going to get onto the card by card, as I don't feel I have too much else to say. I feel like I showed what I wanted to show in the combos. Unfortunately, the cards that we got in the main deck don't really change too much of what we're doing here, except really adding on to our end board through cards like Extinguishing, along with the Awaken from Eternity, or the Ashened from Eternity. Start with the 3 Vados, the 3 Obsidian, the 3 Extinguishing, the 3 Awakening. We then have the 1 Multi, the 1 Chicken Game, set rotation, the 3 Bonfires, the 1 Ashen to Endlessness, the 1 Ashen for Eternity. We then have the 1 copy of Shaman, the 3 Priestess, the 2 Heroes, or the 2 Kings, and the 1 Hero. And then we have the 1 Spearhead, the 3 Nibs, the 3 Valors, the 3 Super Polys, and the 3 Imperms. I chose this hand trap lineup just because Valor and Imperm felt really nice being universal hand traps that you can really use versus anything. Of course, the Super Polys because it's something that you do want to play in this deck, but Nib also feels like a really nice complement now that Baron is gone. Play this along with something like Valor and Imperm to potentially stop any other response that they have Nib, which wasn't Baron, and stuff like that. I just think that there's a lot of blowout potential there, which is really nice. Then on for the extra deck, we have the BLS, which can be something else like Access Code, or even Boral Sword if you would like to play something like that. We then have the 1 copy of SP Little Knight and the IP Masquerena. This can be 2 copies of SP Little Knight if you would like it to be. Then we have the Barricade Borg Blocker, which is another nice card just because it's able to recur a field spell. Also discards a card, which is pretty cool because you can end up pitching a Extinguishing that you may have in hand that's kind of dead or whatever. But then we also have the Donner Dagger for hire, which is something that you can make with Nib or whatever. We then have the 1 copy of the Typhon, the 1 copy of the Zeus, just because you want something for your Infernal Eternal Flame Banshee, just so that it's not just a body on board once you use it. Even if you do get both effects off, just having the ability to go for the option of Zeus is nice in my opinion. Then we have the 2 Vados, the 2 Embers, the 1 Dragos Depelia, the Garura, and the Mud Dragon to round out the deck profile. So for everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching and for the 700 plus subscribers. I truly appreciate your support, and now that we've monetized the channel, giving us access to supers and memberships means that more awesome stuff is on the horizon. To get the channel membership, just click on the description below, and there will be a link that takes you there. You'll also notice a free Discord link that I've made for us too. If you want to support me as a content creator, even if you can't donate supers or get a membership for the channel, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe button mean a lot too. For those wondering, I do plan on making updates to the channel as the support on the channel grows. Anyways, I hope to see you on the next one. It's Bones, signing out.